Hello guys and welcome to Let's Chat Football episode 3. I am your host Elvis Matara, and joining me for today's discussion is a very, very good friend. He's also a very, very enthusiastic football supporter, Manchester United supporter, and as well he's one who follows what happens here locally in terms of sports. So ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Mr. Collins Nyongesa. Welcome, Kolo.
Thank you.
Yeah. First and foremost, I'd like to thank you also for availing yourself, because I know it was on short notice, but I appreciate, and we're going to jump right into it. So today's discussion is basically going to be about Kenyan football. We're going to be examining the state of Kenyan football, and I want to get your opinions as to where you stand. Are you of the opinion that Kenyan football has been a success, or is it still lingering behind? Where do you stand?
Honestly, right now I think football in Kenya is actually in ICU. We are in a very bad state. For example, look at the 2020 Kenya Premier League season. The entire season played without a sponsor. We didn't have a sponsor in the league. And we also had a team that was relegated. Sony Sugar was relegated because they were unable to honor matches due to financial problems. There are a number of clubs also in the league, apart from the corporate clubs, say Bandari, Tusker, Ulinzi, and Wazito FC. Those are the only teams that have their heads above the water. Other teams are struggling financially. Teams have gone for close to 5-6 months without pay. So clearly, we are in a very bad state. You can't have a top-tier league in Kenya playing without a sponsor. You win a league, for example, the league ended prematurely because of the pandemic. The winners, Gor Mahia, didn't get any reward for winning the league. So teams have traveled all the way from Mombasa to Kakamega to Awendo. Then at the end of the season, there is no reward. You see, we are currently in a very poor state.
True.
So I would actually say our football is actually underperforming. That's my stand.
That's your stand. And who do you blame for such underperformance? Is there one particular body where we can point at and say this body is not doing their job, or is it just an all-round? Are we not? Who can you blame?
Okay, I think we have. We can. It's very difficult to pinpoint at a particular someone who can carry the entire blame. But I think for the league, you can start with Kenya Premier League. I think they have been unable to attract a sponsor. They've been unable to approach and get a sponsor since the betting firm, SportPesa, left. They have been unable to reach out to any particular sponsor and come in to sponsor the league. So on that part, you can blame the Kenya Premier League, who are they are the body that actually runs the league. So on their part, they have actually failed. And I think also clubs have really failed, because if you compare what we are doing here in Kenya and developing countries that are doing well in football, you can see that clubs in those countries are reaching out to sponsors. They have their activities that will generate revenue for the club. They sell merchandise. Look at England, for example. They have a number of sponsors, even kid sponsors. They have their own shop selling merchandise. But here in Kenya, we only depend on what we get from the sponsor. It becomes very difficult. So you find a team failing to honor matches, and as a result, they get relegated. For example, Sony Sugar and other teams that have actually had financial troubles in the 2020 season. Yeah.
Okay. Using what you've just said, since we are both in agreement that we believe Kenyan football is lagging behind. So can we also pinpoint a lack of, let's say, the for example, our Kenyan Premier League? It is not marketable. It has not been marketed enough to the point where we even cultivate an interest amongst our local supporters. Because let's take, for example, in the Kenyan Premier League, Aston Villa could be playing Everton in the middle of the week on Wednesday. And this is prior coronavirus, but the stadiums would be packed. Whereas here in Kenya, you find that the only fixture which really attracts a fan base is the Mashemeji Derby. So what can we do as what can we do in order to cultivate an interest and make our very own people start liking our own football?
Yeah, I think we have not packaged our brand to a point where we can attract supporters to the stadium. And it comes down again to KPL. It's again a failure on their part, because look at our neighbors, even Tanzania, how they package their league. For example, their derby there's the Simba versus Yanga. If you compare to our derby here, the Mashemeji Derby, FC Leopards versus Gor Mahia, how they package their league is totally different. So we haven't packaged we don't have a brand that can actually be sold. So that's one failure by KPL, a body that runs the league. Then again, look at our we don't broadcast our league. I'm told the broadcast rights are given for free. So we don't have, for example, look at England. They have a number of broadcasters who broadcast their league. In Kenya, we don't have a broadcaster. I'm told they sold the broadcast rights to some people, but actually they actually air 2 to 3 matches in a weekend. 2 matches in a weekend, which is not enough. So you can't sell your league by failing to broadcast the league. So you need to broadcast the league in order to attract supporters. You need to advertise your league. You need to sell out your league to supporters. Otherwise, look at rugby, for example, in Kenya. Rugby is doing well in terms of branding and packaging. So we need to borrow a leaf from rugby and start packaging our, and that way we can easily attract sponsors and supporters to the stadium. Yeah.
And speaking about stadiums, do we have enough football stadiums? And when I talk about football stadiums, I'm talking about top quality football stadiums. You know, if we compare, let's say in Kenya, we only have two international stadiums, Nyayo Stadium and Kasarani. Is that enough?
No, it's not enough. Actually, we lag behind in terms of infrastructure. And as you can see, if you compare our country to countries that have developed in football, you find that we are lagging behind. We don't have enough infrastructure. We don't have enough stadiums. We don't have enough academies structures. So I think it's a failure on government. They promised to build around the current government promised to build around, was it 9 stadiums?
Yes,
but they haven't built anyone. So, yeah, they haven't built any stadium so far. So I think in terms of infrastructure, we are we lag behind. Look at Ruaraka Stadium, for example. It's a pitch that has actually hosted a number of matches this season, and it is in a very bad shape. It's in a very bad state, and it's one of the grounds that have been used frequently. So apart from Kasarani and and Nyayo Stadium, actually we don't have any other stadium that meets the FIFA standard. So it's a wake up call. We need to put our act together and come up with ways in which we can develop our infrastructure in terms of stadiums.
Yes, and you've also mentioned a very, very good point when you talked about academies. You know, having setups where we can bring up players. Mm-hmm. Currently, do we have? Can we point out one academy where we say this academy produces top tier football players who even go and play in these international leagues?
Mm-hmm. No, actually in Kenya it's very difficult to find an academy like in developing countries. For example, Ghana are so good in academies, and you know, a country that does well in football is a country that invests in the youth. It's a country that invests in young players, and that is one thing that we lack in Kenya. We don't have academies, and if we have it, it's very expensive. Look at, for example, the few academies we have. You can talk of Ligi Ndogo and so on. So I think it's upon us to come up with not even academies. We can have satellite campuses, for example, in every region. Like for example, in Nairobi, we can have one satellite campus where we can. Because the KSSA, Kenya Secondary School Sports Association, is doing a good job in nurturing talents at the secondary school level. So we can have a satellite campus in every region. Then they can absorb these students who are coming from secondary school, because KSSA games are like our academies in Kenya, because we don't have the academies like in England where they have the under 8, the under 13, the under 17, and so on. So for in Kenya, we depend on clubs get their players from secondary schools. So we can have satellite campuses in every region. For example, in Nairobi, one. Then they absorb these students coming from secondary schools. Then from there they can get specialized training and so on and so on. So we need to also up our game on academies and satellite campuses.
Yes, I completely
agree.
Also grassroots football, which is very, very crucial. If we are to at least elevate our very own football. Because, Kolo, to be honest, I've gone to a point where, I would like for us to be proud of our own teams. We don't necessarily have to be watching these international leagues, the Premier League, Bundesliga, La Liga, all the time. We also cultivate an interest in our very own Kenyan Premier League, we invest in it, and we make it better. And as we wind up, where do you think, what is the future of Kenyan football?
There is hope. If we can pull our resources together, if we can pull and manage our resources together, there is hope. For example, look at a country like Madagascar. They did so well in the last AFCON, Africa Cup of Nations in Egypt. They're a very small country, an island. They have a less population than ours. But actually they have managed to put the resources together, good management, the things we have talked here about, looking at academies, for example, managing your players very well, and they did so well. It's not a question of lacking talent. We have talent, so it's just about managing and pulling our resources together and being organized, having an organized football environment. Then I think we shall be ready to go. The future is, we have a very bright future in terms of football. It's just about organizing ourselves, and I think everything will fall into place.
Yes, because I don't think we can deny that there is talent. There are very talented players here locally. It's just that they do not get enough recognition, and it's because we don't have platforms where they are able to be exposed and to get that recognition that they deserve. So I am completely in agreement with what you're saying. And I guess that's it for now. That's all the questions I have right now. And thank you once again for making yourself available for today's discussion. I've really enjoyed it. And yes, I would like to do many more in future, if you're okay.
Thank you.
Have a good day, and I'll speak to you soon.
Okay, you too.